This is your common garden laptop gaming corral, and you can tell it's for gamers because of all of this sick RGB on it. Now this is the kind of thing that laptop gamers use in a futile attempt to try and deal with the jet turbine of a device that they've bought. And, well, I mean, they work a little bit, or a lot if you strap a couple of Delta fans to it. Putting their effectivity aside, every time I've interacted with one of these, my main thought has been, wow, I really wish these were way more expensive. Well, luckily my prayers have been answered because Razer's entered the chat. Oh, it seems fancy, doesn't it? I mean, in all fairness, you can make a freshly launched hemorrhoid seem fancy with soft enough lighting, but yeah, it looks nice and razory. And the design is really interesting. It's the main reason I bought it. You've got this big cavity in the middle of it that seals around your laptop using this bit of foam, which is smart. This way, regardless of the cooling fan configuration on the bottom of your laptop, this should seal around the edge of the laptop, and then with the blower fan in the middle of the cooler, push more air through the laptop's cooling. Whereas with normal laptop corrals, it's just a big bit of mesh with fans randomly placed underneath, and if those fans don't line up with the cooling on your laptop, it doesn't work as well. And another thing that I like about it is when you plug it into your laptop, not only does it function as a USB hub, which is very useful for a modern laptop, but it also uses your laptop temperatures to set fan speeds. Now there are also buttons on the side which you can control the thing with, but I really like this, although it means you're probably going to have to install some of Razer's bloatware on your system, which I'm much less of a fan of. If only its air filter could also filter out Razer's bloatware, that would be nice. The thing is though, having not turned it on yet, I'm already pretty disappointed by this thing because the build quality is shocking. First impressions weren't great. Whoa, it's so plasticky! Now, I'm not saying I was expecting it to be built like a Razer blade, but it's definitely made to look like it's built like a Razer blade, and it's very much not. The plastic quality is really, really bad. I mean, listen to that. Now, I wouldn't have gotten my panties in a twist about the build quality if this thing didn't cost 200 Canadian dollars. I don't know, that feels like a lot for a bit of cheap plastic with some RGB and a fan in it. And it really doesn't help that you can buy an alternative with a similar design for half as much depending on when you buy it. But before we get into any comparisons, let's drop a laptop on it and see how much it helps. Now, in terms of laptop, I'm gonna test it using this 16-inch Lenovo Legion laptop, which has an RTX 4070 in it and some other goodies. It's a pretty powerful laptop, and you can see that its intake on the bottom is pretty straightforward. It's just a big square. So let's see how compatible this is with that Razer. Now, I'm guessing the idea is that that kind of needs to line up with this chamber, so oh, that immediately doesn't fit. So when you put the rear foot of the gaming laptop inside the bit of foam, then the laptop doesn't hook in place on this bottom lip, and then, well, it's very much not sealed. So if we kind of let it fit on there like it is now, yeah, I mean, I guess it still sits okay up top here. It's not quite as sealed as I'd like it to be, but it should still perform fine. Yeah, even on the sides, I'd say that it's relatively in there. And with this Lenovo, this cable lines up perfectly with the rear I/O, which is good. But before we test the cooler, we need a control. So I'm gonna start by testing the laptop just normally on a desk, plugged in at maximum performance. Now, for maximum professionalism, I'm measuring the distance between the laptop and the sound pressure meter, even writing it down. And don't worry, it's perfectly natural to be aroused by my immaculate professionalism. Initially, I'm gonna put load on the laptop using IDA 64. I also set the laptop's fans to a consistent speed. It would only let me set it to full throttle. This way we know that the laptop's fan curves aren't affecting our temperature result. So now, I'm gonna run IDA 64, stressing both the GPU and the CPU. We can just use one bit of software. The temperature has been stable for ages, and damn, it may sound like a Harrier, but the temperatures are really good. This cooling is effective. The CPU jumps between 54 and about 57 degrees Celsius, and the GPU is sitting at about 57. Again, these temperatures are amazing for a laptop, but I mean, this is with full fan speed, and it is very noisy. But still, impressive stuff. So with that, let's swap over to the Corel. Interestingly, aside from the USB, the Corel also needs supplemental power via a wall wart. But I guess it's to power that slight RGB underglow. I see. There's a firmware update for our Corel. Wait, I have to restart my whole laptop? Oh my god, and that triggered a Windows update. In terms of software control, you can program in a fan curve, but I'm just gonna use a fixed fan speed for the initial test. Okay, so I'm doing 1900 RPM. I'm kind of matching it to the volume of the laptop's fans. And after our quick AIDA64 run, the results were pretty impressive. Whoa, it's made almost a 10-degree difference. That's wild. Although that is comparing it to the laptop just flat on a desk. So what happens if I just kind of prop it up on something? Propping up the laptop helped a lot, although the temperatures didn't go as low as with the laptop Corel, but it also doesn't cost $150 to prop it up, so, you know, there's that. But we still need to see how much of a difference the Razer cooler makes for noise under load. So I set the laptop fans to its default fan speed under performance mode and ran AIDA64 again with the laptop flat on the desk. With that, the temperatures jumped way higher than they were when we ran the test with the fans at full speed. And the laptop was still very noisy, running at about 54 dB. And for a more real-world test, I also played some Cyberpunk. And compared to the earlier tests with the fans running full bore, these temperatures are looking a lot more laptop-y. Oh yeah, damn laptop temperatures. And then for the Razer cooler, I'm gonna use the silent fan curve. Let's see what that does. Temperature-wise, it was definitely better, but the difference wasn't massive. But it's because the cooler's fan speed keeps the laptop's CPU at 80 degrees Celsius, so every time that it would go over 80 degrees Celsius, the fan would ramp up a little bit and then bring it back below that. But where it did make a huge difference was in the noise. We went from 54 dB to 46, which may not sound that massive, but remember, decibels are logarithmic, so 8 dB is a lot quieter. A result which also carried over to the gaming performance. Again, the temperature difference wasn't massive, but it was so much quieter. Let's have a listen. Oh, it sounds pretty similar over the mic, but in person it is considerably quieter, I promise. So that's actually made quite a bit more of a difference than I was expecting. It's not really the temperatures, it's the noise difference between the two. Having said that, Razer still has a little bit of a problem on their hands, and it's all of the other options of this kind of cooler that you can get for much less money. So let's check out the competition. This is the Linode laptop Corel, which I bought for half the price of the Razer. So does that mean it's half as good? I mean, the build quality is not much different. Oh yeah, and you've got that fake Alienware pattern on the back. Oh, lovely. I think it lights up as well. Now, aside from having the same general cooling design, there are some key differences between the two. Aesthetically, the Linode is more overtly gamer looking than the Razer one. It also has a thicker layer of foam around its cooling indentation, which could potentially interfere with the laptop's cooling, but we'll see. Also, despite having a USB hub in it and requiring supplemental power, the Linode doesn't have software control functionality. But it makes up for that with more conveniently placed fan speed controls, so it's up to you how you feel about that. And then in terms of build quality, the Linode maybe feels slightly cheaper built than the Razer, but it really isn't much of a difference. It is worth noting the Linode sits less securely on a desk, but it makes up for it with a bigger range of height adjustment on its little footies. But what about the performance difference? Ooh. This has a lot more RGB though. It RGBs all the way around. It's not just on the bottom. And with the fan speed matched to the loudness of the laptop fans, which ran slightly louder than the Razer Curel, we get slightly better temperatures, which makes sense. I did try and volume match the two, but for some reason, the fan profile in the laptop was slightly more aggressive on the Linode Curel. And then interestingly, when it comes to gaming, the Linode got decently better temperatures than the Razer Curel, but again, this is down to the fan profiles. Whereas if I manually set the Razer's fan speed to the same noise level as the Linode, we get similar temperatures. Which honestly, considering the price difference, isn't a great result for the Razer. Although in its defense, I will say that because of the thicker foam around the edge of the Linode, I think it partially blocks some of the laptop cooling's intake, which causes turbulence or something, because the Linode's sound is partially more unpleasant than the Razer's. Have a listen. The difference is slight, but I think because of the frequency of the sound, the Linode sounds slightly louder even at the same decibel reading. Although for the price difference, who cares? And then finally, I also tried gaming with the laptop propped up. And despite decently losing in temperatures to the fancy new coolers, it did bring the noise down to within spitting distance of the fancy coolers. So make of that what you will, and with that, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you like this video, maybe watch another one, a suggestion will pop up in a second, and until the next video, bye bye.